It's your professionalism that I respect.
Stephanie Hayes, good morning. Happy belated birthday. How are you? Give me some good news.
I'm old. Yeah, I'm old. But you know what? I don't know what. I'm old. I'm older now. And I think like my birthday was on Tuesday. And I think basically as soon as it happened, my body went like, okay, now everything's going to hurt. You're 51. Like I think I instantly need glasses. What's that?
So it was on the actual day itself. Everything just fell apart.
Everything changed. Like I think I need new glasses now and everything. So I went to the optometrist. Do you know who I saw coming into the optometrist?
Who's that?
Everyone.
That was good. That was good. Yeah.
Thanks.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I've had a just rough morning, Stephanie. I was just telling you, man, I got a dent in my car, my truck this morning. And I tell you how I got a dent in my car, though.
How'd that happen?
Through my grandpa's dentures at him. Dentures. How do you get a dent in the car? I don't know. Maybe not my best. I thought it was funny. I actually did get a dent in my car this morning, but that was because I ran into a pole, not because I threw dentures at him. I just Anyway. Stephanie,
I still don't get it.
Dentures. You dent cars, dentures through my dentures. It dentured the car. Maybe it's fun, Maybe I don't know. Not my finest effort, clearly. I mean, seeing everybody, that was a pretty good one. I like that. We don't know where Anthony is.
I don't know where Anthony is. I do not see Anthony. All right, why don't we get into it?
Does your brand need believers, or does it still need a better product? Mike Cesario built Liquid Death's tall boy myth before buyers cared about water chemistry. The cult followed a sharp product promise, not community theater. Today on Out of Founder, we're going to be talking about brand or cult and what founders should build first if they want loyalty that lasts. I'm your host, Chris Franks. With me is Stephanie Hayes. Today, we're talking about brand or cult, or what are these things? We've been talking, it's kind of funny. We talked about cult stuff lately in the office. It's kind of funny. So, what is this thing? Like, when do you start to try to build? And when we talk about cult, ultimately, we're talking about trying to get people that believe in your brand and your brand story, right? And so, cult's kind of a fun way to say that people that are true believers in your brand story. When do you start that, Stephanie? When does that process start when you're trying to build a brand, and we'll say particularly a consumer-facing brand?
Well, I sort of don't know if you can have a cult without having a brand, right? Because a brand is not a visual logo and colors. A brand is what your customers or your audience say about you, right? So I'm not sure that you can have one without the other. But when if we're talking about them both, having a brand versus having a cult, it would probably be good to define like what creates a cult. What is a cult versus a brand, right?
Yeah, cult is, there's beliefs, there's shared beliefs, there's like,
it's a commitment to this. Yeah, it's a commitment to a set of values, to a movement, and I'm not sure you know what that is when you're first starting out. However, I do think that most founders start their businesses because they believe in something. because they believe they can make some sort of change or impact. And cult marketing is about appealing to beliefs and a vision as opposed to the features or the change that's going to be made, right? And I think that that's marketing around something other than what do you think?
I think it's interesting is that we grew up in a world where of the pre-launch, and it was buzz marketing and trying to get people excited about a product before the product actually launched, right? And you think about all those Apple products in the days of Steve Jobs when he was go through and would tell you about all this cool stuff and trying to get you excited about this product. And in some cases, there was massive buzz marketing, massive campaigns, massive pre-signups, et cetera. And then the product actually failed to meet the expectations of that. So in this case, like, hey, we built this excitement around the brand, but then the product itself didn't really live up to this thing. And so as you're thinking about this new thing, and let's say you're trying to create some buzz around your product, you're trying to create a little bit of a pre-launch buzz. To what capacity is it about the product itself? And what capacity is it just about the story or the brand? And I think in this case, Liquid Death is a perfect example. It's a can of water, right? It's just water. At the end of the day, that's all they're selling is water. But they're selling it around this brand and brand story, which is really funny and cheeky and edgy, et cetera. So to what capacity do you focus on the product versus the story and the brand ethos that you're trying to create?
Well, almost 100% you focus on the story, right? Because when you think about cult marketing, it's defined as a strategy that builds a fiercely dedicated, almost fanatical customer base by tapping into consumers' desires for community, belonging, and identity, right? So again, this all comes back to identity. So rather than just selling products, these brands sells a lifestyle and a shared set of values, turning ordinary buyers into voluntary brand evangelists. So like it's about identifying your identity and aligning your identity. It's about giving people somewhere to build a community and have these rituals and these shared experiences. It's like exclusivity, and it's also about advocacy, right? So people getting behind it. But if you think about some of these sort of cult brands, like look at Yeti or the Stanley Cup, like they were around for years, and then all of a sudden became. I mean, you've been able to buy a Stanley Cup at the drugstore for many years. Then all of a sudden they became like influencer marketing. But why? The product didn't change. So it was
Right.
the story, the narrative. So to me, it's just another form of marketing, right? And you can the interesting thing about a Yeti or a Stanley Cup is that you can invigorate an old brand using cult-based marketing.
So I think that one of like inherent in this is this idea of the lifestyle brand.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in our lifetime, the most famous lifestyle brand, probably Red Bull. They created this idea that it's a drink, but then now Red Bull is about the lifestyle. It's about this entire idea of adventure, et cetera. Let's start with I'd say probably the most provocative question here. Who can do that and why? Why would you create a lifestyle brand around a business? Why would this thing, and it's obviously very expensive and long term, but let's assume that you have a product that you could build a lifestyle brand around. Why would you do that? And then how do you go do that?
Well, why wouldn't you, right? Trying to market to a mass audience, to a large sort of heterogeneous audience is hard, right? That takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of exposure. Why wouldn't you put your flag in the ground and say, I am serving this demographic that I know is large enough to make me successful, but I can find ways to very clearly identify with them. I mean, we're doing this in marketing all the time, trying to find our audience. So why wouldn't you? And you need to give people something to believe in. So you're either going to say it with words or you're going to show it and build some some type of angle on a very clear statement. So Red Bull was for the people who, even if you think it tastes like crap, which I do, it's the one that people reach to if they are the outdoor enthusiasts, the you know the crazy, edgy, there's a personality behind it.
Yeah.
And so people will commit to it because it does all these other things. Red Bull's now a brand that is about extreme sports and their television shows and what have you. So that makes it very, very solid. As opposed to think about like Monster Energy, for example. What does it stand for? I don't know. It's just a
They're
competitor.
very big in the Monster community.
Yeah,
They're
Monsters really like them.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, we both see Monsters Inc. We know those things are real. They had under the bed.
But I don't even think like that actually tongue in cheek. Why wouldn't you leverage that? But I don't even think they do.
Probably some trademark issues around that as well. But
Yeah.
I think the thing that's very interesting, and this is the lesson for founders, and I think it was kind of an interesting topic. Both you and I were scratching our head on this, but I think that I've come across people before, consumer-facing startups, that say to me, "Oh, I want to really build a big lifestyle brand around this." And I say, "Great. How much money do you have?" Because if you don't have $1 billion, you're probably not going to build some sort of a lifestyle brand around this. The idea there is for the vast majority of us mere mortals, we're just trying to talk about the product or the service that we're selling in our marketing. We're just trying to be direct and tell this story around this thing, not the fact that we're associating this with some sort of a gigantic lifestyle like Red Bull, et cetera. And I mean, Red Bull spent hundreds and maybe billions of dollars at this point on sponsoring F1 teams and every endurance athlete and all these not endurance athlete, adventure athlete that's badass and motorsports and all these things that are all associated around this kind of idea of adventurous lifestyle, et cetera. And so have you ever seen, I mean, there's only one that I can think of, ever seen a new company, a startup company that's really been able to establish this idea of cult or lifestyle branding?
Not off the top of my head, but I think, I see this a little bit differently because everything you said is true. Yes. And if I'm a founder starting up and I do want to gain access to a market without it costing me a ton of money, being able to commit to some type of narrative, some type of values-based statement that does sound a little edgy or is signaling to a community that you're for them. Maybe I am launching something and I find a way to communicate that it's primarily for the LGBTQ community, right? Then I don't necessarily need to spend a whole bunch of money on advertising and creating big programs. What I do need is to find inroads into that community through relationships and referrals and maybe I'm sponsoring events or maybe I don't know. But you can actually do pretty cost-effective marketing through if I have a very solid, very clear statement about how I am serving a particular community or what I believe in. So I sort of see it as like I don't need to take a Red Bull level commitment to lifestyle, but aligning my beliefs and values very clearly around one community can be very effective marketing that doesn't cost you a lot of money.
I think it's funny because now, like as we're going through this, I'm like, well, yeah, I think we should all do that, right? And
Right.
so if we start to say, hey, I believe my company believes in this, and I have a purpose, I have a vision of how the world's going to be, and and we can use Red Bull as an example, it's hey, Red Bull is about adventurous lifestyle and about doing extraordinary things and I'm just associating my brand with my belief that you should live an extraordinary life. if that's genuinely what you believe and that's part of the ethos of your brand and your product, then you should go look to build a community, a cult in this case, around what you believe. And you should
Yep.
find people that are equally as passionate about you in that scenario. And to your point, that can become a very good beachhead to build a audience and community of supporters and fans. And if you're looking like a consumable product or a consumer facing product that's not some gigantic purchase, that's just a drink where it could be repetitive, that's a really, really powerful place to start. And so I think that an interesting follow-up question, because I do think that this is something that seems common sense, but it's not. How do you find your people, Stephanie? How do you find that early on? If you believe a particular thing, how do you find the people that are going to be the first members of your cult, so to speak?
Go where they're already at. Like, who are they listening to? Where do they hang out? What you have to know them, right? You have to know them inside out. And like, this is true for anything from, some super Red Bully consumer product all the way through to like a procurement manager for adult diapers. Like, they all believe something and they all listen to somebody, or they all have processes. They all have, you got to meet them right where they are. And you've got to tell your story in a really compelling way, right? You've got to there have been some really, really brilliant strategies in this regard where, you almost have to be a bit of a disruptor, or you have to get the attention. Like, the fastest way to do this is to borrow someone else's audience, right? And be in front of someone else's audience with their buy-in already. I mean, that is the fastest way to start building some type of a brand, or like a cult-based brand. But again, the strongest thing we can market on is identity. What do I identify as? Everybody wants to identify as something. Everybody wants to be able to say, I'm this person. Look at cars, right? Cars say so much about what you believe in and who you are, right? Or at least we think they do. And those brands have really evolved. And like, would I consider buying a car that wasn't aligned with my identity? Probably not. Like, I actually don't think I would.
It's a really good question. I was about to push back on you, and then I was like, "What? No, my car says everything about what I want to say about myself, right? Like, it is a reflection of who I am. Like, oh, I have a Tacoma pickup truck. Why? Because I like to be an outdoorsman in Colorado. I like to go do outside stuff, and it's like that's exactly.
Yeah, I was a steadfast Volkswagen driver for long, long time, and till I had my final experience with them, where I was like, F you. But did you know how it was like a PTSD moment to have to decide I was no longer buying Volkswagens. Like, but why? Something about Volkswagen aligned with my identity.
Yeah, there's some story there. I think that this is really interesting because we're talking about two fundamentals of marketing. And this is very, very base brand marketing. This is the stuff that we start with even as you're starting a new company. I think that you have to start with this idea of what this brand means. And there has to be some sort of meaning or belief if you want to create, a genuine like cult or story brand. Like there's tons of brands that I think about that are just like, okay, they're not that exciting or inspiring or different. But if your real goal is to create a brand that you think can be a big story, cultish brand that you can get people aligned behind this, it starts with a story. It starts with what does this brand stand for? And what does it mean? And I think to your point, it can be something that is simple as disrupting an industry or calling out something that is complete and utter absurdity within the industry that you serve. And just saying, we stand for fixing this thing, right?
That's right.
And then the second component that we've talked about, which is really, really important, is working to find the people that align with what you believe. And there's always going to be people that don't believe that or think that the status quo is fine or whatever. but trying to identify those people that believe in your brand and believe in that story. And that's a little bit harder work, but showing up and telling that story again and again and again in whatever way you possibly can, I think that becomes the thing. So tactically, if I'm trying to build this thing, I'm trying to build a brand that is based around a story, and we've said you've got to identify the story, then you have to identify the people. What's next? How do I start to spread that? Well, the gospel of my cult, so to speak.
Well, you get evangelists, right? Because the big question you have to answer is, if you think about the people who you want to be your evangelists, what does it say about them to support you? Like, what is their greatest desire in terms of their identity? What do they want to be seen as? What do they believe in? Like, what does it say about them to support your brand? It says that I'm an environmentalist. I am a feminist. I am a good person, so that's where your messaging and how you tell your story is so important, to let people hear your story. The fastest way to do that is, as we talked about, borrowing people's audiences, but you got to make sure that the audience you're borrowing is aligned with, what you're trying to, what your story is trying to say. So I actually think, early stage, this is a fantastic way to build a brand, right? Rather than having to wait until you have a product and have a brand, and breathing some life into it by creating a cult. Create your cult to begin with, and that is much more effective, I think.
The funny thing is we were talking about Red Bull and we're talking about all these big, gigantic, big consumer lifestyle brands. But the company that keeps popping in my mind is Scaled Agile. And Scaled Agile is a company that I worked with. They're up in Boulder. But the Agilist community, the Agilist community was there. People that wanted to transform the way that people built software, which seems to people that don't build software, seems completely asinine, right? But there's a group of people that were passionate about changing the way that we build software and doing it in a way that was smarter and made more sense, et cetera. And so when Scaled Agile started, they were part of that original community. And they said, hey, let's start a company around formalizing and training this process. And so they found a group of evangelists that were already there, that were already passionate about this. And then early on in the days of Scaled Agile, they had crazy brand evangelists. They had people that would put it as their title on their LinkedIn or their head, the banner on their LinkedIn pages. And so that's not a lifestyle community. I guess it is a lifestyle brand, but it's a group of people.
No, but having lifestyle brand is a bit of a misnomer when we're talking about this type of marketing, because it's about identity, right? So I am SAFe certified. I understand the Scaled Agile community. The pre-Agile community, sometimes you could implement Agile and actually make your business a lot less agile, right? So what Scaled Agile was trying to do with the SAFe certification was to actually try and deliver on what Agile originally was trying to deliver on, right? And so, yes, there were members of that community that became quite passionate about this new way of doing Agile. And so that's not lifestyle, but it certainly is the way that I believe. What does it say about me? It makes me look smarter. It makes me look like I know something. It makes me look like I care about the work that I'm doing. It makes me look like an expert, right? And so and just so happens that it also works. SAFe works, right? And as a double SAFe certified practitioner,
nerd. You nerd, you SAFe nerd.
Such a nerd. But that's just another community. And those people don't need to be accepted and identified by the general population. They need to be accepted and identified by their peers and people who understand what the difference is between old Agile and new Agile, right? So it doesn't matter whether it's a lifestyle brand or a nerd brand or something in between. Like people, as long as other people will get on board with the difference you're trying to make, the change you're trying to make, the impact you're trying to make, you just need to know like who needs to hear that, right?
I think there's one other aspect and one other point that we want to probably touch on before we get to the speed round, which is I think that you and I have been around so many startups, and I've seen people that have a great story and that really want to go tell this great story about the change that they want to make in the world. And it's inspiring. And they never do it because their product sucks or their service sucks or what they're actually building doesn't deliver on the promise of this like change in the world. As a founder, as an early stage founder, how much energy do I need to be focusing on this brand, this story, et cetera, versus actually just building a great product? And like, it's kind of been like the core beliefs of brand first, product first has gone back and forth. I don't know where we are in the overall zeitgeist at the moment.
I just don't know why it has to be and or, right? Like, shouldn't you, if you're going to go out and evangelize what you're building, I could only do that if I knew I had a really great product, if I knew I had something that truly, so this is that iterative, like rather than trying to be like, you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. If we can start getting into a mindset of being iterative in our businesses, we stop thinking we have to arrive somewhere before the next thing can happen. It's like, I need to make sure that I have something solid that's going to back up my promises, but I also need to generate some interest. So why am I not telling a story along the way, right? We don't have to have these launch events anymore. It doesn't have to be like milestone based marketing. This should be iterative and generative, and it can evolve. Yes.
I think that the main thing that you have to have something real. Like I've seen these great brands that are vaporware that never actually come to fruition because they spent all their time and money. I mean it. Like, oh, we raised $100,000 in a seed round and spent $80,000 on brand marketing. And we never spend any money on actually building the product of the thing that we're.
Yeah, that's because we were so focused on having to have a timeline, right? But I mean, don't look now, but this is all Scaled Agile, right? Scaled Agile is all about iteration and all about, mini launches and mini releases and being able to go out and grab the feedback. So basically run your business like Scaled Agile, like a safe model, and you'll be okay. But this is this bro marketing bullshit, wanking off to investors and, oh, we have to have this big launch. And I mean, what a waste of money, right? Because you never are in a place where you know so much as a founder that you can verifiably put all of that money behind one launch and expect it to go well, right? So I am a far bigger fan of evolutionary marketing and building a cult over time by embedding yourself in the conversations that are happening and figuring out where those are and seeing what really tweaks people, right? Test your messaging, test your go and talk to your freaking customers.
That's the thing that's funny is like as we go through this, like this whole thing, and we landed back at the place where we almost always land, like it's one of the maybe 4 or 5 things we talk about every single time we get together, which is, hey, it turns out you have to know and understand the group of people you want to serve. And to go do that, if you want to serve that group of people and you're passionate about that community and you are part of that community, you will have a way easier time actually going and creating a group of constituents, people that actually give a crap about what it is that you do.
Yeah.
And which is really the heart of what all this is we're talking about.
Yeah. You have to be the cult leader, right? Like no cult happens without a leader. So how do you embed yourself in a really authentic way inside that community and get seen as a leader and a knowledgeable expert inside that community and someone who can quite authentically represent who they're talking to, right?
I'm just going to go and post that on LinkedIn that Stephanie told me to become a cult leader. So It's just it.
Well, honestly, it's been this whole like cult marketing has become such a thing now that nobody would even blink an eye. They'd be like, oh yeah, here we go.
This is how to found a cult. Question for another day. Are you ready for this speed round?
You didn't even give me a chance to answer that question.
I know. It's always I just step on it because I just say, "Are you ready for this speed round?" It's really it's really just a.
But what if I need? I need that emotional ramp up to the speed round.
Yeah, but you have the 4 or 5 seconds. There's a 7-second graphic, so you have 7 seconds after that, and then whatever time that we stall, we're actually doing it to get emotionally prepared. All right, brand first or product first, which creates a more lasting loyalty?
Brand first.
Welcome everyone to your community or repel the wrong customers hard?
Repel hard.
Should a founder wear the brand's t-shirt full time, or is it okay for them to wear something else?
No, that's cringy.
I mean, well, I guess
that's trying too hard. Then I'm going to be like, Moonies? No.
So early in the company, focus on building the community or focus on building the product. Did I already ask that question? No, I didn't.
Sort of.
Yeah. All right. How should you try to copy a lifestyle brand like Liquid Death or Red Bull, or should you try to build your own pathway in building a cult brand?
I mean, there's no new ideas, right? So if you can look at the template, if you can understand conceptually what they did, that could be helpful. But if you're going to go and copy everything that you did, you might as well shut your business down right now.
There you go. Deep Dive Resources, The Culting of Brands by Douglas Atkin, and How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp. Interesting conversation, Stephanie. It was like kind of started off a little bit like, I don't know, should we be talking about this? And it got to the point of like, no, know your community, know who you want to serve and serve them passionately. I like it. Get us out of here, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for being with us today. We love to have you here. We're honored that you're listening. Leave us a review if you like the conversation. If you didn't like the conversation, just leave Chris a review on his own channel. We believe strongly that you as entrepreneurs are the fundamental driver of our economies, and we are so honored that you've joined us. Come and join us at howtofounder.com and listen to us on any of the channels that you regularly find your podcasts. And we think you are the foundation of all things good in the future. So thank you for being here. We'll see you next episode.
It's almost as if you have no business training at all.